Hey everyone, Cheese here. So, as you can probably know already from my channel, I don't usually cover updates in Guild Wars 2, but this is going to be like the one time I'm going to make an exception. So the reason I don't cover updates much is because a lot of the class and balance changes doesn't really affect me personally, like at all. I play the game so casually that a lot of things just straight up don't affect me. But this change is honestly such a huge nerf to Warrior that I'm going to cover it because it actually is affecting me and just, well, in general, it's a huge change. So, pretty much how this video is going to function is I'm not going to make it a rant or anything like that because, in my opinion, rants just make people a lot of times angry and don't really get anywhere. And also, you generally don't want to listen to someone who's just angry and furious all the time ranting, and it wouldn't really get the developer's attention either. So, this video is going to be split up in three parts. The first part I'm going to cover real soon is the changes to Warrior and what has actually happened. It mainly just focuses on banners, by the way. The next part is going to be, and that's going to include some comparisons. The next part is what I recommend doing on it, and finally my actual thoughts near the very end, because I think that is pretty much the least important part of all of this. Okay, so going over the changes, let me explain what has actually been changed. So if we go over here and just click on the utility skills, the thing that's been changed mainly are these three banners. The banner of defense, the banner of strength, the banner of discipline, and the banner of tactics. What has actually been changed? Well, if you didn't already know, here's how banners work. They are utility skill, so they go in your 7 to 9 slots, not your 0 slots, because that's like your elite skill. That's a little different, that's a little more special. And how banners always pretty much worked is you grab the banner like by clicking on it or by pressing 7, then you have like this aiming thing, and then you make it come down from the sky, kind of like some kind of orbital drop pod, and it will land, and anything in this field will be buffed. That's nearly always how they worked. The way that they buff stuff is way different now. So, the first change is in the previous update, when you went over to a banner and you press F to pick it up, and then what would happen is it would just get like stored back in your character's inventory, and you wouldn't actually be able to run around with a banner like so. So, in the past, you used to be able to actually hit things with a banner. Now you can't hit them. I mean, I don't really mind, except for one thing. If you're picking up the banner and moving it, I'd rather it go straight into your inventory again like it used to. In my opinion, that was the better way of doing it. Because when you pick it up and use it, you can't use your sword or anything. Like right now, I can't use my great sword, which means I can't really hit stuff like so, meaning I'm kind of doing less damage. So I'd rather the banner go right in your inventory and just refresh the cooldown of the banner like it used to. So, what does the banner actually do when you deploy it? Because the banner's time here is almost ran out. Oh, well, by the way, that's another way of the banners. I guess they always did this. Once the timer would run out, then you'd have a short little waiting period before you can deploy the banner again. For the banner of might, in fact, this is actually the same for all the banners. They now give you a tiny, tiny amount of quickness. It says here about like 3 seconds. So when you deploy it, here, this buff here, about 3 seconds of quickness. If you don't know what quickness does, there's a buff in this game also called basically swiftness. Swiftness makes you run faster. Quickness is like a better swiftness all the time. It makes you do your abilities faster, cast them faster, like sword slashes, such as this sword slash here will happen faster when you have quickness. And it also makes you run faster. However, 3 seconds is not really much time. It also, the banner will constantly pulse. In fact, it says so here. Place a banner against quickness on initial placement, then pulses might to you and your nearby allies afterwards. The reason why this is such a huge nerf is because, as you can see, it is currently pulsing might and giving me about 2 stacks of might. Let me just go and put a quick cut in and get to the wiki so I can explain this. Okay, so here we are on the wiki page, and this wiki page explains pretty much how might works. So, here is basically a formula displaying how much might you gain based on how much, like how your level is on your character. And I'm not going to really work that out because we're just basing this on a level 80 character because my character is level 8 at the time. So we can just go by this and ignore the math solution there. So pretty much here it explains that at level 80, each stack of might gains you 30 plus power and 30 plus condition damage. With 25 stacks of might, level 80, the bonus would be 750 power and an additional 750 condition damage, which is huge. However, as you remember, the banner there didn't give that much. So if my memory serves me right, the old banner of strength, the one I was just showing off before, gave you a flat buff of 180 extra strength, extra power. No condition damage whatsoever, just power. And if we do some quick, really easy math, like I've done here in this calculator, you can see that 2 times 25, which is the amount of power we would be getting from 2 stacks of might, is only 50. So it's, yeah, way, way worse than the previous power, or might in this case, that the previous banner would give you. I'm also going to go back in game because I want to cover a few of the other banners and explain also why some of them, in my opinion, should get a name change, because they're not really doing what the banner says anymore. So let me put a quick cut in here and we'll get back in game. Right, so here we are back in game with the other 3 banners. So first off, we have the banner of defense. This banner used to straight up increase your defense. So if we just go into the hero panel here and then go into equipment, you can see here that defense pretty much is it's toughness. I mean, well, no, actually, I think it was like armor. So pretty much what this would do is it would increase your armor, and the more armor you have in game, it says it combines the item defense and your toughness here, which is gained by skills and traits and stuff. And then the higher this number is, the less damage your character would take. So before, the banner of defense would straight up just increase that by around about, like, I think again, same numbers before, so 180, so a bit of a decent boost. And also it wouldn't pulse anything, so the boost would constantly be there, just like the banner of strength. Now what the banner of defense does is it gives you 3 seconds of quickness, and this is actually going to really hard to see. It's like a blink if you miss it. See that it's already going, but it gives you 1 second of resistance, which is, yeah, as you can see, already going, and it like again pulls 1 second of resistance. Resistance is a buff that makes so that while it's on you, condition damage will be greatly reduced. However, in my opinion, that doesn't really equate to actually meaning defense. There's this other buff called protection that you can get. I'm going to go to the wiki page on that very soon, but I'm just explaining why I think this banner should be named to something else other than the banner of defense, because it doesn't really give you defense anymore. Now we're just going to move away from this banner and get to the next banner, which is the banner of discipline. This banner used to give you 160 or 180, close to that, basically precision, which is the trait, not trait, it's the attribute that gives you more critical chance. So the more precision you have, the more critical chance you have. I actually have like around about a 50% chance to crit, because all my gear here has got a lot of precision on it. Precision that the banner would give you around 160, around 180, would be a nice little addition to the amount of crit you usually have. And in fact, the banner of discipline technically gives you more critical damage now, because it gives you Fury for 1 second, and Fury, as you can see there, gives you 180 extra condition damage and 30% extra critical chance. So that actually be a massive boon. For me, example, that would make my critical chance go all the way up to 80% critical chance, which is huge. That's like, instead of half of the time I'm getting critical hits, I'm nearly always getting critical hits. However, the downside is it's again 1 second of Fury, and that's just it. It just... there, as you can see, it lasts that long, so you have to get a critical hit within that time frame, and if the Fury isn't there, then good luck actually doing something. And like, you could be hitting something, and all the time the Fury isn't there, it's not really gaining you critical hits. But in my opinion, what the biggest offender out of all the banners is the banner of tactics. This should really, really deserve a rename, and the reason why is because this banner used to increase your concentration. So again, if we just go into the hero panel here and go over to concentration, concentration increases your boon duration. Boons are stuff like Fury and the stuff we just covered. So in my opinion, that's why the banner was actually tactical in the past, because you placed it and then you kind of think around, what boons do I want to apply and when, and they'd have more duration. With this banner now, it gives you 1 second of regeneration, and that is a 140 health heal and level 80 character like mine here. So if we just deploy the banner, there's the regeneration, and it's going before you can even see it, and there it is again. The downside about this is, 1 second of 100 healing is like pathetic compared to about every single one of the healing abilities you can have as warrior. This one heals you 9,200 health. This one heals This one heals you 3,260, and also it converts 33% of the damage you're taking while it's up to healing. This one pulses a little bits of healing on you at around about every second, and it gives you 348 health instead of the tiny amount that just a little bit of regeneration gives you. And then this one, all incoming attacks heal you, and it also gives you a base heal of all incoming attacks of 4 seconds, and it also gives you a base heal of 1,893 health. So yeah, pretty much everything is better than the banner of better than what the banner of tactics can give you. And now I'm going to put another quick cut to get to the wiki, so I can actually explain what some of the buffs actually do that the banners give you. So here we are on the wiki again, and I've already got up all the pages here, so I didn't need to open them up. I already got this ready before I was ready to record. So here we are on the first thing I was covering, resistance, and I actually just read what it does here. I was apparently a little bit wrong. It doesn't actually give you less damage by conditions. Here it says resistance is a boom that temporarily negates the effect of all effects caused by non-damaging conditions. So that means, here's a great example. There's one which is like, basically it roots you to the floor. I forget what it's called, but it's like, that's what it's called, immobilize. So basically a bunch of chains go around your character, and your character is unable to move. It negates the effects of that, but everything like burning, agony, and bleed, which are all conditions that damage you over time, aren't actually affected by resistance, which is what the banner gives you. And even if they were affected by it, usually what other players would do, let's say in PvP and stuff, is put heaps and heaps of damaging conditions on you and just wait for you to die. This banner wouldn't do crap against that, because you get 1 second of resistance that then pulses and ends. So pretty much you get 1 second that pulses and ends, and you have to hope, if you're in a PvP situation, that the enemy would even cast a ability like the immobilize on you at that point. So in my opinion, the banner of protection should actually be giving you the boon protection, because protection reduces strike damage, which is just regular power damage, by 33%. So it actually makes sense for the banner to be called the banner of protection. Also, the other thing I wanted to cover is that regeneration, which is the thing that the banner of tactics actually gives you. Here it says that at level 80, it actually gives you 130 health every time this boon takes itself into effect, which means I actually have a tiny bit of healing power on my character, which means it's actually even worse than I thought. It's not 162 health that it gives you, it's 130, which again is just really, really pathetic compared to all of the healing abilities Warrior has baseline. So now that I've actually covered how the nerfs have affected Warrior and how strong the nerfs actually are, we are going to go back in game, and I am going to cover a few different ways which I recommend that you kind of deal with this solution. And well, yeah. So here we are back in game, and sorry I said how we deal with this solution, because that is not the right way to word it. We're going to try to find a solution to deal with the problem, which is the nerf. Okay, so the first thing I recommend doing, and it's honestly the simplest, stop using banners. If your build includes a build that is banner heavy, change the build so it no longer includes banners. This is an especially good option if you didn't really enjoy banners that much in the first place. Like if they want your be-all end-all and you really enjoy the gameplay of banners, which is fair enough, just change them to something else. Here's a great example. With the Band of Strength here, as I mentioned before, pathetic amount of might that it gives you. Just change it out immediately for Great Justice. It's a shout, which has 2 ammunition, which means you can use it once, and then it will tick down, and then once it's done, you'll be able to use it again. And this thing here gives you around about, like you can see, since I used it twice, I had around 12 seconds of Fury, which is much, much more compared to what the banner gives you. And also, as you can see here, 12 stacks of might. And they're also lasting for a way longer time than the banner did. And as you can see, in fact, for Great Justice has already recharged quicker than the banner does. So all in all, this ability used to not even be that great in the past, but now it's way, way better than the Band of Strength. Another great ability that I can also recommend, On My Mark. Pretty much this is another shout. This has also got 2 ammunition, so you can shout twice before it needs to recharge. And this one reveals enemy characters so they cannot stealth, really useful for some enemies such as the White Mantle and Bloodstone Fen, and also it puts them with 15 stacks of vulnerability, making them take more damage. So, for example, here, this greatsword I'm using, the number 1 skill on it, yeah, that grants vulnerability, but the rifle I'm using here doesn't. You'd have to use one of these 2 skills to grant vulnerability. Also, some weapon sets, such as sword in main hand and axe in offhand, don't give you any skills to inflict vulnerability at all. So, yeah, in my opinion, on my mark, excellent, excellent choice for basically doing more damage. So yeah, just change your skills out, change your build out. What if, however, you are a new player? If you have just joined the game at this point, honestly, I say just keep playing. You won't know the difference. Even though I explained kind of how bad the nerfs are, you're going to kind of be going into this with a fresh experience, so these banners will kind of be normal to you, just like the time I joined World of Warcraft in Cataclysm, and everyone was like, oh, the world's changed. It's horrible now. I was like, oh, really? I just see the world as the world. It was always like this to me, so it wasn't as bad. So yeah, frankly, if you are a new player, feel free to keep playing and just ignore the nerfs. Option number 3, quit the game. And I know this might be seeming like kind of a down option, or what a lot of people would be like, you don't like the thing, quit, just like that kind of negative attitude. But I'm gonna say this is a super valid reason. If you loved playing Warrior and then this makes you upset enough, I say that your enjoyment as a person matters more than the game. If you've got friends who really want you to stick around the game, maybe you could also like find a different MMO. The point is, if this makes you unhappy enough to quit, you have the right to quit. Especially since Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a subscription, so if you ever want to come back later, you can. But like, you want to quit the game, that is super valid choice. The last option, this is especially good option if you're like me and you're really like playing Warrior and you don't want to give up the class. Oh yeah, that was actually another option. So, option number 4, which actually won't be the last one. Delete the Warrior and start another character, trying to make them look kind of similar, and play as another class. Might seem like a huge amount of like effort to put in, but I mean, if you're anything like me and you've just hoarded more tomes of knowledge than what you know what to do with, just go and use the tomes of knowledge and boost the character immunity to level 80, and then just unlock a few talents, go to Pacifier and Heart of Thorns map, get a few hero points, get some decent armor from like the Karma vendors and straight to Devastation, bada bing, bada boom. You've got like a new level 80 character that you can enjoy contact with that isn't nerfed as Warrior. And then the 5th option, which I really should have put earlier, in my opinion, the 5th option is kind of the most sensible, which I think I'm going to follow. Don't use banners for the time being, and wait and see if ArenaNet actually changes this and buffs banners again in some way, because in my opinion, the nerf is frankly ridiculous. However, I wouldn't actually recommend going and posting about this on the forums or the subreddit, mainly because, in my opinion, you'd be pretty much wasting your time. Here's the reason why. Firstly, there'd be tons and tons and tons of other players doing the same thing, so they kind of got you covered and probably already be giving the feedback. Some are going to be a little more vocal and angry than others, but I mean, if you're covered, you're covered. Basically, it doesn't matter who's covering you, you're covered. Yeah, also another reason is because there was recently this one instance where heaps of people were basically screaming for this one change to be put into effect. Nothing happened, and then a meme was made about it that ArenaNet listened to. But then another half the time, they don't really listen to the memes that are made. Even though, I know it sounds super weird, I know it sounds basically like, what, like a meme is made, ArenaNet finally makes the change. That doesn't really sound right. Like, why would companies be doing it? I frankly don't know. I don't work at ArenaNet, so I'm not going to even try to guess. But all I'm saying is, meme was made, change was made. They listened to that meme in particular, haven't listened to other memes, so I don't know if even just making heaps of memes about a problem in Guild Wars 2 is a way to get it fixed, or what. So I just say, yeah, just wait. Don't use banners for now. Wait for them to get buffed, because also another way of looking at it is that the class can only be kicked into the dirt and punched continuously so many times before ArenaNet finally turns around and eventually buffs it. But as I said before, you want to just quit the game. It's also a totally valid option. So that's the second part of the video covered, my basically advice on how to deal with all this. Now for my actual opinion on this. You probably actually would have gathered from the second part of the video. Yeah, I really don't like this change. I'm actually quite pissed about the change, but I'm trying not to rant too much here, because as I mentioned before, rants don't really get you anywhere, but I can pretty much almost end the video right now, because yeah, that's just a really simple way of saying it. I'm pissed. I don't like the change. I really loved banners in the past where you could actually pick them up and bash enemies over the head with it. but I'm realizing now that it wasn't actually like that good. The abilities you could bash enemies over the head with the banners were kind of crap back then. So in my opinion, when banners were kind of the best was when they were deployed. You put them back in your inventory and you didn't carry them around like some useless stick with no abilities. And that is the part I actually think is really, really stupid. The fact that you just go, you deploy banner, and then you're just like, hey, look at me, I'm a warrior. I'm a walking buff machine. Except you're not actually buffing anything. You're just walking around with a stick you can't hit people with. And warriors are all about walking around with big sticks such as hammers and actually hitting people with. So it's really, really pointless in my opinion that they give you a stick that can't even buff anything to not hit people with it. Like, that's what warrior is about. At least put some really cool abilities on the banner, such as wax and like throwing the banner at people and skewering them and smashing them over the head and stomp to the banner. That does a very decent amount of damage. Because, I mean, other classes have got pickup kits that work really well, such as Engineer. They get a flamethrower. Why not Warrior? Why not Warrior let Warrior bash and stab things with a banner like they could in the past, except make it better? And also, buff the banner again, so just it gives you way, way more stacks of might. Or it gives you more fury for longer. And I'm actually going to end this video with two last little bits, just as a comparison to show you that no, asking for a buff wouldn't make Warrior overpowered or anything, because there's an armor set I have that gives way better fury, and an ability on a Necromancer I have that gives way more might. So I'll get back to you in just a second after a quick cut to show those. So here we are after the quick cut on my Necromancer, and here's the main thing I wanted to show you off. The Well of Power. So pretty much how this thing works, it's a little like a banner. You press it and then you get this aiming thing and then you put it down on the floor. You have to walk in this circle here, but I mean, hey, it's a circle. This is, in my opinion, functioning a lot like a banner. Previously, when I was testing, I didn't step in that circle long enough, so if you step in it right when you cast it, you should actually gain 6 stacks of might. Also, when stepping in this circle, for 1 second you gain stability, which means for about like 1 second you cannot actually be pushed or knocked back. So if you put this down right when enemies ready to shoot you with an arrow or something, it kind of knocks you back. The stability isn't that good in my opinion, but I mean, hey, 6 stacks of might that you immediately get that last longer for the warrior banner, and also this thing is functioning a heap like the warrior banner as well, this Well of Power, because pretty much as soon as the might runs out, the timer on the well has almost ran out, meaning that you can just place the well again really quickly. It's an ability with really, really short cooldowns, pretty much the same as the Warrior's Banner, because with the Warrior's Banner currently, as soon as the timer on the banner has ran out, you can straight away place a new one. There is no cooldown. It's like little cooldown like they used to be. Now, I'm going to switch over to one of my ranges to show you just with a single armor set, a single buff it gives way, way better fury than the banners. Okay, so here we are after the small cut on my ranger, and as you can see, these are the things I was talking about, the runes on her clothes that she's wearing. So runes of the pack. We can ignore all the little things it gives you, such as the boon duration, and just focus on the thing that you get when you have 6 runes in the set. So you grant nearby allies 5 stacks of might, fury, and swiftness for 8 seconds while in combat. Let that just sink in for a second. So the warrior's banner pulses, let's say we just go on the banner of precision or whatever it was called, the one that gives you critical chance by giving you fury. It gives you 1 second of fury that lasts for a bit of fury that lasts for 1 second that kind of pulses within intervals, and so it seems like the banner is giving it to you whenever it just feels like it. This single rune set gives you 5 stacks of might, so that's more than the banner of power is giving you. It gives you more fury for longer for 8 seconds, and it also gives you swiftness, so that isn't quickness, that isn't the one that makes your abilities cast faster, but it is the ability that it is the thing that gives you 33% movement speed, so it makes you run faster. So if you're hit by an enemy, it'll let you run in close combat better, and also pay attention to what it says when in combat. However, I figured out that combat is pretty much triggered whenever your character takes damage. So it's even got some utility here. I'm going to force my character to fall off the edge here of rather some, and as soon as she takes damage, you can now see, look, fury, swiftness, and might. So if you're running around the open world, you can force this to happen by jumping off nearby cliffs. And yes, I know that went away really quickly, and it may have seemed like a pathetic amount of time for the boons to stay around. But again, remember, with the banner for Warrior, you get 1 second of the boon, and it's like one boon per banner, so you have to have multiple banners out at the same time, thereby taking up multiple utility slots when a bunch of runes give you it better. And if you're gonna also, well, not if you're gonna say, but also with the banners, yes, they do affect allies, but so does this rune set. It gives, it says here, grants nearby allies 5 stacks of might, fury, and swiftness for 8 seconds. So not only is a random rune set in the game doing, it's like doing the same job as a banner should do, it's doing a better job than the Warriors banner right now, which I find just frankly a bit sad, especially since I play Warrior and I really want to keep playing it. Unfortunately, that's the note I'm going to end on for this video, just it being a bit sad, because I really don't have anything else more to say, and I don't want the video just dragging on with me blabbering about it, useless stuff for way too long. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video if you decide to subscribe to my channel and stick around. If not, well, I mean, I'd understand why you wouldn't want to from a video like this, it being a little bit of a downer and everything, even though I said I'm trying not to rant here, but I can only really do so much to kind of butter and smooth it over, and I'm frankly okay with letting some of my emotions and real thoughts show, especially since this is the end of the video where I said I'd actually tell you about them, like about what I thought about this. Yeah, so enough talking. I'm ending the video right now.